Before the world said goodbye to him, Peter Falk revealed a truth so disturbing that Hollywood quietly hoped it would never surface. A truth about 7 actors, famous, admired, praised, who, behind the glow of cameras, carried a darkness he believed people deserved to know. But before those shocking revelations, there was the story of the man himself, a man shaped by hardship, long before he ever stepped into the rumpled raincoat that made him a legend. Peter Michael Falk was born on September 16, 1927, in New York City and raised in the small town of Ossining. His life began with a challenge that would have crushed many others. At just 3 years old, doctors discovered a malignant tumor in his right eye. The surgery that followed took the eye entirely, leaving him with a glass replacement he would wear for the rest of his life. Yet instead of retreating into insecurity, Falk developed a sharp, expressive presence, communicating emotions with the smallest movements, the slightest shift of his remaining eye. What began as a vulnerability became one of his greatest strengths. He grew up in a modest, hard-working household. His mother worked as a bookkeeper, his father owned a small clothing store, and together they instilled in him discipline, determination, and respect for ordinary people. Falk's fascination with storytelling emerged early, but acting was never part of the plan. After high school, he served as a cook in the Merchant Marines during World War II, an experience that broadened his world and taught him how to connect with people from every walk of life. Later, he pursued political science at the New School and earned a master's degree in public administration from Syracuse University. For a time, he followed a traditional path, working as a management analyst for the Connecticut State Budget Bureau. It was a stable work, respectable work, but not fulfilling. Inside him lived a quiet restlessness, a sense that he was meant for something more. It wasn't until his late 20s that he finally took the leap into acting. Studying under legendary teachers like Sanford Meisner, he threw himself into the craft with intensity and hunger. Slowly, then suddenly, audiences and critics began to notice the man with the gravelly voice, the piercing gaze, and the emotional depth that felt impossible to ignore. By the early 1960s, it was clear Peter Falk was not just another actor. He was becoming a force that Hollywood could not overlook. As Peter Falk stepped deeper into the world of performance, his rise was swift and undeniable. What began with small theater stages soon evolved into roles that demanded intensity, grit, and an emotional sharpness few actors could match. His work in film, noir, and crime dramas throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s earned him respect from critics and audiences alike. Roles in Murder, Inc. and Pocketful of Miracles brought him consecutive Academy Award nominations for Best Supporting Actor, solidifying his reputation as one of Hollywood's most compelling new talents. But everything changed in 1968. That was the year Falk stepped into a character so deceptively simple, so quietly brilliant, that it would reshape television forever. Lieutenant Columbo, with his disheveled beige raincoat, his trademark cigar, the gentle shuffle of his walk, and that famously apologetic voice, Falk created a detective who felt utterly ordinary until he wasn't. Columbo's brilliance wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. His power came from the way he slipped beneath the guard of criminals, appearing harmless, forgetful, maybe even a little clumsy, until the moment he revealed he had seen everything. His legendary line, "Just one more thing," became far more than a catchphrase. It was the moment the mask dropped, the moment his razor-sharp intellect sliced through deception. Falk didn't just play Columbo, he built him. He shaped the character with his own ideas, his own improvisations, his own humanity. Eventually, the line between actor and character blurred so deeply that it was hard to tell where Peter Falk ended and Lieutenant Columbo began. Over the decades, the series grew into a cultural landmark. It wasn't just a detective show, it was a masterclass in tension, psychology, and understated brilliance. Falk won 4 Primetime Emmy Awards for his portrayal, becoming one of television's most iconic figures. Even outside Columbo, his career flourished. Audiences saw him shift effortlessly from deadpan comedy in The In-Laws to introspective philosophical roles such as his deeply memorable appearance in Wings of Desire. Each performance carried his signature blend of intensity and vulnerability, proof that even when he wasn't wearing the raincoat, Peter Falk's artistry remained unmistakable. As Peter Falk's career ascended, his personal life unfolded in ways that were just as profound, complex, and deeply human. Long before fame ever found him, during a time when he was still discovering who he wanted to become, he married Alice Mayo on April 17, 1960. Their bond had formed years earlier when both were students at Syracuse University, 2 young dreamers imagining futures that felt uncertain but full of possibility. Alice came from a strong academic background in fine arts and psychology, offering Falk not just emotional support, but an intellectual partnership that grounded him during his early and often unpredictable journey into acting. She was there long before the spotlight, when success was only a distant hope, not a guarantee. Together, they made the heartfelt decision to build a family through adoption, welcoming 2 daughters into their lives, Catherine and Jackie. For Falk, fatherhood added a new depth to his world, one that balanced the chaotic rhythms of Hollywood with the quiet joys of home. Catherine, in particular, would later surprise the public when she pursued a career as a private investigator. Fans couldn't help but smile at the poetic irony. The daughter of television's most beloved detective choosing a path that echoed her father's fictional brilliance. Jackie, too, was a cherished presence in Falk's life, providing a sense of warmth and constancy even as fame introduced pressures he had never anticipated. But Hollywood has a way of testing even the strongest bonds. As Falk's success grew and filming schedules became more demanding, the strain began to show. The emotional weight of embodying intense characters, the long months away from home, and the relentless spotlight slowly eroded the stability of his marriage. After 16 years together, Peter and Alice made the painful decision to part ways in 1976, a quiet ending to a chapter filled with love, growth, and the innocence of his early dreams. Yet life had another unexpected turn waiting for him. Just a year later, on December 7, 1977, Falk married actress Shara Dennis, a woman whose presence would shape the rest of his life. Unlike his first marriage, Shara lived and breathed the entertainment world. She understood the demands of acting, the late nights, the pressures, the sacrifices. Their worlds were aligned, and that alignment soon became evident on a screen. Shara appeared in more Columbo episodes than any other actress, each performance a subtle reflection of the creative harmony she shared with Falk. Their marriage endured for decades, through fame, through aging, through illness. Shara became a constant presence beside him, especially in the years when health challenges began to dim the sharp wit and perceptive brilliance that had defined him for so long. Their relationship, forged in the unpredictable world of Hollywood, became one of loyalty, companionship, and unwavering devotion. In the quiet moments of his later life, when the cameras had stopped and the roles had ended, it was Cher's steady presence and the love of his daughters that surrounded him, reminding him of the life he had built far beyond fame. In the final years of his life, when age and illness had softened some of the sharpness that once defined him, Peter Falk began speaking with an honesty that surprised even those closest to him. He was never one to stir controversy or seek attention through the scandal. But there were rare, intimate moments, quiet interviews, private conversations, where he allowed the truth to slip through, truths about people he had encountered in Hollywood, people whose kindness was only surface deep, or in some cases non-existent. Falk revealed that behind the glamour, the applause, and the polished performances, he had crossed paths with a small but unforgettable group of actors whose behavior shook him to his core. 7 actors he described not as merely difficult, but genuinely harmful. The first name he ever mentioned was George C. Scott, a man of extraordinary talent but volcanic temperament. Falk recalled moments on set where Scott's anger exploded without warning. "George had a fire that could burn straight through you," he once said. Crew members walked on eggshells, terrified of igniting the next eruption. Falk admired his brilliance, but believed the fury went far beyond the acceptable boundaries of artistic passion. Then there was Robert Mitchum, the legendary Hollywood icon known for his cool detachment. But Falk spoke of a darker layer beneath the charm. He remembered witnessing Mitchum humiliate younger actors, shove aside extras, and treat crew members with an icy disregard that made Falk uncomfortable. "There was something in his eyes," Falk murmured once, as if kindness just wasn't built into him. Another name he revealed was Telly Savalas, a performer Falk both respected and feared. Savalas had a magnetic charm on screen, but behind the scenes, Falk described him as manipulative, someone who wielded power like a weapon. Telly loved power more than people, Falk reflected, and when a man loves power too much, darkness grows. But the list did not end there. Falk also spoke of Rod Steiger, an actor whose intense method acting sometimes warped into emotional cruelty. Falk remembered watching him verbally dismantle colleagues, leaving them shaken for days. "Brilliance doesn't excuse breaking people," he said quietly. The fifth name was one that shocked many: James Coburn. Publicly smooth, confident, and effortlessly charismatic, Coburn could turn cold in an instant. Falk said his friendliness often masked a cutting, predatory edge. "Jim could smile at you," Falk said, while he pushed the knife in. Rounding out the list were 2 final figures, Anthony Quinn and Lawrence Harvey. Quinn's towering ego, Falk claimed, often tipped into outright cruelty, especially toward those who couldn't defend themselves, and Harvey, sharp, calculating, dangerously charming, was the one Falk described as the most unsettling of all. "He made you feel like a pawn in a game you didn't even realize you were playing," Falk confessed. "That kind of mind, that's where real trouble grows." He never shared these stories to tarnish reputations or chase sensationalism. He simply believed in truth. As his life neared its end, he felt it was important to reveal that not everything in Hollywood is bathed in light. Sometimes the darkest stories come from the brightest stars, As time moved forward, the sharp-witted detective the world adored slowly began to fade behind the curtain of age and illness. In his private life, Peter Falk confronted challenges far more formidable than any mystery Columbo ever solved. Alzheimer's disease crept in quietly at first, small lapses, forgotten details, moments of confusion, but gradually it dimmed the brilliance of a man whose entire craft was built on observation, memory, and instinct. The irony was painful. The actor, who embodied razor-sharp intuition, now found himself fighting a battle against the erosion of his own mind. Yet even in these difficult years, the gentleness that defined him never disappeared. Those closest to him spoke of a softness that remained, glimmers of humor, flashes of his old mischievous charm, and a warmth that lingered even when words sometimes slipped beyond his grasp. His wife, Shara, stood by him unwavering as his world grew smaller and quieter. His daughters, Catherine and Jackie, visited him with love and tenderness, remembering the father who taught them life's simplest yet deepest lessons: kindness, curiosity, and the importance of seeing people for who they truly are. On the quiet evening of June 23, 2011, Peter Falk passed away at his longtime home on Roxbury Drive in Beverly Hills. He was 83 years old. Pneumonia, complicated by the progression of Alzheimer's, brought his remarkable life to its peaceful end. The home where he took his final breath was the same place where he had spent decades painting, reading scripts, welcoming friends, and sharing laughter with the people he cherished most. It had been his sanctuary, one last shelter from the unpredictability of the world he once performed for. In the days that followed, his daughters spoke with heartbreaking affection. They remembered his wisdom, his humor, his quiet strength. They remembered a father who could turn even the hardest days into moments of tenderness with a well-timed joke or a soft, encouraging smile. To them, he was not the rumpled detective millions adored. He was simply Dad, a man who loved deeply and lived authentically. Peter Falk was laid to rest at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery, a serene and storied resting place that holds many of Hollywood's greatest legends. His gravesite soon became a pilgrimage point for fans who left flowers, raincoats, cigars, and handwritten notes thanking him for the character who felt so real, so human, that he seemed like a friend. Even now, generations who never lived during Columbo's original run continue to discover him, drawn in by that gentle voice, that unassuming manner, and the brilliance hiding behind a single unforgettable line: just one more thing. In the end, Peter Falk left behind more than a body of work. He left reminders of humanity, humility, and the quiet power of noticing what others overlook. His legacy endures not through scandal or spectacle, but through a character who showed the world that intelligence doesn't need to shout, and kindness doesn't need applause. Peter Falk's life was a tapestry woven from courage, humility, brilliance, and an unwavering dedication to truth. Both on screen and off, he stepped into Hollywood with nothing but determination, transformed personal hardship into artistic strength, and gave the world a character so unique, so deeply human, that he remains unforgettable decades later. And in his final years, when he chose to reveal the shadows he had witnessed, the egos, the cruelty, the hidden darkness, he reminded us that even the brightest lights in the industry cast shadows behind them. But perhaps the greatest legacy Peter Falk left behind wasn't Columbo, or the awards, or even the legendary performances. It was the reminder that kindness matters, that integrity matters, that paying attention to people, to truth, to the small details of life can reveal more than any spotlight ever will. As we honor his memory, we continue to learn from the man behind the detective, the man who wasn't afraid to see the world clearly and wasn't afraid to speak the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. If Peter Falk's story moved you, inspired you, or revealed something new you never knew about Hollywood's hidden side, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps preserve stories like his, stories that deserve to be remembered, revisited, and passed down to future generations. Thank you for watching, and as Lieutenant Columbo would say, just one more thing, stay curious.